What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Sports Now YouTube channel podcast network. He is Andrew Destin. I am Noah Hiles. Andrew, we're in Dallas, Texas, and the Pirates have made a move. Elvis Alvarado, the big news of the day. Oh, and they also traded for their first baseman.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about that first. If you haven't seen already, we're going to have this. Hopefully we have this up Wednesday morning for Pirates fans to consume. The Bucks made a big move late Tuesday evening here in the Lone Star State at the winter meetings, trading Luis Ortiz, Michael Kennedy,
and Josh Hartle.
Josh Hartle, a third-round pick from this year's draft, for Spencer Horwitz, a first baseman from the Toronto Blue Jays, who we're going to get into. This looks to be their everyday first baseman. I mean, they haven't come out and said that. He could play other positions. Shelton's talked about how Reynolds will also play some first base this year. But Andrew, I mean, this is a guy that, as we're going to talk about, has multiple connections to this organization, from people who discovered him to people who coached him previously. And he's got something the Pirates love. He has a lot of control. He's got, 5 more years of team control? And he comes at the cheapest price possible. So it's a move that I think makes a lot of sense based off of, what this regime has done, where you're looking at what they try to acquire, what they value, and even the organizations in which they value doing business with. Just curious to get your original thoughts on the move.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to like about the move on the surface when it comes to what exactly does Spencer Horwitz provide. And let's get into that first and foremost, is what kind of a player is he? This is somebody who's a glove-first player. Yep. It's been noted that, Carlos Santana is the, notable exception. But over the last few years, getting an above average to elite level defender at first base has been a fleeting task for the Pirates. So there's been a lot of guys there who have been league average at best. And then, of course, the offensive contributions have been fleeting as well. Horwitz, what to like about him on the offensive side? Sees a lot of pitches, takes a lot of walks, puts the ball in play, has a solid contact rate. Not going to hit for a ton of power, but based on the profile, you can kind of tell this is a guy who checks a lot of boxes, to use the lingo that the Pirates like to use. This is somebody who makes a lot of sense in terms of what they want, but we can certainly get into it from an analytical standpoint of whether or not it is the right fit or best fit given what the Pirates had to give up to get this guy.
An additional value, I mean, this is a position that seemingly has a new starter every single year.
Yep.
Ideally, you make this move if you're the Pirates, if you think this is a guy who's going to be your starting first baseman for the rest of Paul Skeens' time here, the rest of Jerry, that window that they put together with all this pitching, this is one less thing they have to figure out. They have Cruz for the majority of this time. They have Reynolds, Hayes, all these other guys. This is something, and whether he ends up being a second baseman, a right fielder, a DH maybe, I don't think that would make sense, but who knows? That's an additional part. But you talked about the connections. I'll get into that.
Yep.
I mean, this is a guy Ben Cherington drafted, first off.
Yep.
Right? He drafted him in the 24th round. But Ben Cherington isn't the only guy connected to this. This is a guy who was coached in AA, AAA, and the major leagues by Matt Haig, the new hitting coach. Probably Matt Haig's star pupil. He coached higher prospects in Toronto, but I don't think this is probably the most marquee hitter as far as big league talent that Haig coached in the minor leagues. When you look at all the other guys that he kind of encountered as a hitting coach, as his time as a hitting coach in the minor league system for the Blue Jays, Horowitz was like his star pupil. And so I think that probably played a factor in this. And I wouldn't be shocked if this was a guy that the Pirates have had interest in even before Haig. If years prior they were interested in him as a prospect, because, I mean, he was blocked by a better first baseman, one of the best in the game with Guerrero Jr. there. But yeah, I'm. Let's get into how we feel about the move, Andrew. What do you think? Is this what the Pirates needed?
It is. I think there are a multitude of ways that you could have gone about addressing what the Pirates need is, which is abundantly clear, right? This is something we've written about at Post-Gazette.com, that they need a corner outfielder, they need a first baseman. At the very least, this, in theory, addresses one of those needs. Now, the question is always, when you're evaluating trades, and it's impossible to truly evaluate them on face value, in the immediate aftermath of the trade. But I think it's fair to note that they did give up 3 pitchers.
Yeah.
They did give up 2 top 20 prospects on MLB pipeline. And the last salient point to bring up here, of course, and really the most important one in my mind, is that it was for Luis Ortiz. This is a guy who pitched his way into the starting rotation last year, had his best big league season.
He's the 3rd most valuable player on your pitching staff.
And club controllable.
Yes.
This is not somebody who was expiring with only 1 year left or 2 years left. Same amount of club control remaining as Spencer Horwitz. They're both club controllable through 2029. So,
and when I say value, I mean through WAR,
Yeah.
not like a subjective type of value. Like I'm going with analytical value there. But it's interesting. We're going to have a story coming out today, being Wednesday, about maybe some other pitchers that were dangled in the trade market. And I don't know if we'll talk about that in this video. But they were clear that they were interested in trading starting pitching. Ortiz made sense in a lot of ways, but I don't know if this is the best player they could have got for that package.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it. I think Spencer Horwitz he makes the team better. I don't think there's any denying that. This player in 150 games is a better production at that spot than what they had last year with Tellez and Joe.
Yes.
He's better defensively. He's better offensively. He's better in the present, and he certainly has more to offer long term. But I don't know. I look around the game and I see guys that I think if you were willing to take on more payroll, you probably could have got for this exact package.
Yep.
A guy we mentioned ad nauseum, it feels, is Yandy Diaz. And I would be shocked if it took a lot more than this to get Diaz. 2 top 20 prospects in Luis Ortiz.
Yeah.
But that would be adding $10 million onto their payroll. So I think that this move also indicates really how stringent the budget is this offseason. And if there are going to be other moves that go into acquiring a bat, they're either going to have to make a counter move that cuts payroll that kind of matches what they're bringing in, or they're going to have to acquire other players like Horowitz, where they're on the league minimum rookie deal, and they're going to have to kind of develop these guys. I think this move kind of confirms something that we've heard all week, and we kind of had the premonition going into the offseason that they're not willing to add significant payroll, and they're going to have to do a little bit of developing on their own moving forward with these guys.
Yeah, and if it's going to be payroll, it's going to be in the form of guys who are club controllable versus exploring the free agency route.
Correct.
Right? It's going to be the arbitration years, things of that nature, which, that's probably a point to bring up too with this, is we've already expanded upon it here, but that trade package was as substantial as it was, probably because of all those club controllable years. And frankly, that's why Luis Ortiz is a coveted commodity on the flip side of that, because he is so controllable for so long. So it's a mixed bag of a trade. It's obviously going to take time to fully evaluate it, but on the surface level for me, I understand it. It's not a trade that I personally would have done, but I get why the Pirates did it.
I feel the same way. I mean, I get it. I get why the Pirates did it. I mean, it's something where if you would have told me coming into Dallas that this was the move that would be made, I would say, you know what, that it aligns with everything we know about this front office.
Right.
I personally would have liked to see them maybe step outside their comfort zone a little bit. Maybe make a deal with an organization that you're not as familiar with. And take on a little bit more money.
Right.
But this is what they did. And I don't think it will be their final move, Andrew. Maybe I'd say there's a decent chance this is the final move they make in the winter meetings. We have one more day that we'll cover. But I think they're probably still looking to address other areas, especially that right field spot now.
Yep, you have to think so. And that's personally speaking, don't think that'll be through free agency. I have to believe that'll also be through a trade, or it'll be some kind of reshuffling of exactly how they plan to deploy all the various guys on the 40-man roster, whoever ends up making the 26-man roster. But I view this as there's got to be at least another trade in the books. Whether or not that's by the end of the winter meetings, whether that's in January, sometime in February, who knows? But they got to address the corner outfield spot, specifically right field, especially as you mentioned, with the uncertain future of exactly how they're going to approach Brian Reynolds.
Yeah.
So there's more in the store. I got to believe there is.
He's Andrew Destin. I'm Noah Hiles. You can follow our work at post-gazette.com. We have a whole bunch of coverage from the first 2 days down here in Dallas at the winter meetings. We have a lot more coverage coming on Wednesday and some follow-up stuff once we head back up north to the chilly city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Be sure to check out our work. Follow us on social media and keep tuning into the Post-Gazette Sports Now YouTube channel and podcast network for all of your Pittsburgh sports coverage. Take care.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.